Hello guys, how are we going? So another beautiful day outside here in Wellington, New Zealand. Um, so just about to talk to Chris. Obviously Chris is another workshop employee, technician. He specialized mostly in sword making. So we're going to have a chat today about making some cool, sharp objects. And obviously he does cosplay and stuff as well. So we'll touch on those kind of things as well. So obviously Chris is a man of many talent. So let's wait for Chris to jump in, and then we'll get him on. Good morning, good morning. Yeah, beautiful morning today. A little bit windy, but it's not too bad. The wind's a little bit cold, so after this, I'll get some work done, and I might go for a little walk outside just to get some fresh air. All right. So hope you guys are doing well. Obviously we still in lockdown, but we should find out what's going to happen today. We might go down a level and able to get back to work hopefully on Wednesday. All right, we're just waiting for Chris to jump in. Obviously, we had a pretty good few days of live chat. Obviously, as I said, I'm at home quite a bit, so I thought I'll give this a good go, and it's been a lot of fun. And definitely looking forward to doing more as we go. Maybe do once a week, once I'm back at work. Obviously, we had Rob and Lindsay on, then we had Joaquin, and we had obviously had Kevin yesterday. So we got Chris on today. Then we're having Stephen Saunders on actually tomorrow. Yeah, so definitely stay tuned for that. And we'll oh, hello from Portugal. Wow, must be like pretty late there for you guys. Must be like night time. So we're still waiting for Chris, guys. But while I'm here, you guys got any question? Definitely pop the question through. There's a little question button down the bottom about here. Yeah, put your questions there, so I'll see it, then I'll obviously ask Chris those questions, and we go from there. Yeah, so Chris is not here just yet, so we'll just wait for him to come on. So good to see a few of the guys here actually on the workshop as well. We've got Kevin joining us again, and Joseph's here as well. It's midnight. Wow, are you doing some work on your costume, or you just up watching this? Hi Chris, where are you? Might just drop him a quick message on Facebook, see where he is. Give me a second. We'll do it on my phone, but I'm using my phone right now, so just waiting for Chris to jump in. Wow, quite a few guys are here, so hopefully Chris jump in soon. Otherwise, you guys will start dropping off. Give me a second. I just grab him. Get my keyboard. Ugh. The beauty of live TV, eh? Could I make the Robocop helmet? Yeah, I'm quite keen to make the helmet. I think it's a pretty cool looking helmet. And but I say like I've got so many things going on right now, but I'll definitely put that on the list. That's for sure. Oh, editing some photos. Nice. That's awesome. Hey man, it's something that I should do a lot more of, is editing my own photos. But one day. I'm just gonna drop Chris a quick message, see where he is. Obviously, maybe he's having issue getting onto the internet or something. Chris, there he is. Gonna drop a message to them. Go, yo, where are you? All right. The helmet, yeah. Thanks for that. They're pretty cool. They're like obviously, we have the one there. This is all EVA foam, and this guy obviously is my tie armor, and this one here, the one I did the Tour Vicardi, is just all EVA foam. Lockdown's been good. Obviously, like I'm lucky enough that I am able to work from home, so got given a few things to do at home. So it's been quite cool and quite exciting as well to be able to. You see, you can't see live. Let's get message Chris. Should be there. Just go to Facebook Live. So we are on. Oh, there he is. All right. The hat, this one here is off Mulan. So, oh, yo, he's here. How are we going? Good morning.
Yeah.
Good
Well, good
morning. Good
morning.
morning. Good morning. Yeah, so we got quite a
Hello,
few
everybody.
guys on today watching us. So it's pretty exciting. It was nice off Weather Workshop to cheer that we're having a little chat today. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's good. Can you guys hear me all right? I've got my headphones
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Be good. Be good. I see you got your apron on. So you ready to do some work after this, or you've been doing work already?
I've been doing a little bit of work, yeah. I was fortunate enough to be at work when we got the announcement, so I was able to
Yep.
grab a few things and be able to work from
Yep.
home. I can't say I've been remarkably efficient, but I try to get things done
Yeah.
um, when I
It's
can.
pretty hard. It's been like getting up about maybe around 10 o'clock, do some work, but it's good. We can work later, make up the hours, so it's not too bad.
Yep.
Yeah, but I was at Tour Vicati when the announcement was going to happen. I was like, oh no, I can't get back to work to get stuff. But lucky I got enough phone around home that I could do some work, so it's good. It's good.
Yeah, I feel like
Anyway,
everybody's got that project sitting at home that's like, maybe I could just be working on that.
yeah, yeah. We like it's just like it's so weird. Me like in a way, I was kind of like relieved we had the lockdown. Kind of like it's just nice to have a little unwind a little bit. But then again, now I'm looking forward to go back to work. We'll find out today, obviously, what's going to happen. Anyway,
Yeah.
for you guys who don't know Chris, I'll let him introduce himself. Go.
Hi, everybody. Chris Menges. I'm the assistant swordsmith at What a Workshop, among other things. So I'm Peter Lyon's apprentice, essentially. But I've been there about 7 years, and I've worked for Peter for, I guess, 4 of those now. Um, but I mean, Shannon and I have done lots and lots of projects together, from miniatures to giant sculptures to all kinds of stuff. Yeah, background in engineering and armor smithing and doing stunts back in the day and all that fun stuff.
Yep, all the fun stuff. That's what we do.
Yep.
Life's too short not to try everything. Pretty much that's how I see it. You have to give it a go. Yeah, it's quite funny. Like
Absolutely.
so, I had Joaquin on obviously a few days ago. Then I realized I'm gonna have all you guys from the Scout Studio pretty much on because Steven's next.
Yep. Stephen will be
Yeah,
good.
man, it'll be good. Yeah, I'm sure Joaquin's going to pay him back with a few comments. That'll be good. Anyway, man. So I saw you did your 48 hours of dagger making
Yeah, that
last week.
was
It was last week. Yeah,
no, it was the week before
yeah,
because lockdown happened right in the middle of when I was trying to make this thing,
yeah, yeah,
and so that kind of threw a little bit of a spanner in my plan of you know variables always come up when you're working on a project, and that was
yeah,
definitely one I didn't account for.
yeah,
And like I was, uh, my partner Cassie, she works in prosthetics, and
yeah,
they were also at work at the same time. And instead of having people take public transit home, I decided to
yeah,
drive a bunch of people home
yeah,
all over Wellington,
yeah.
just so that they didn't have to rush in any of that stuff.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that changed things a bit, but yeah, I've got it here.
Yeah, man. They
So for those of
look
you
awesome, man.
that don't know, this was a challenge put on by a South African knife maker by the name of Niels Vanderberg, Black Dragon Forge on Instagram, and he's done this every. Well, I don't know when the first time he did it was, but he did it last year as well when we actually happened to be in lockdown, and I was just working from home, seeing what I could make with the tools that I had last time. But this time I was like, oh, I've got full access to all my tools at work and some of Peter's tools. I'm going to make something that's really challenging. So I did these 6 fullers on this Cinquedilla, this Italian Renaissance dagger sword thing. Sometimes these
Yeah,
are sword length, so they're weird. But yeah, so I was almost done with this. I started profiling the scales on this,
yeah,
and then I was going to head home and hopefully be able to finish everything with the linisher I've got at home, and
yeah,
it's already heat treated and everything. And then we get the call into lockdown, and it's like, oh, so I kind of stopped what I was doing, loaded up some stuff that I could work from home with, and then yeah, continued on and managed to finish this with 20 minutes to spare, I think.
just
And
made it.
with any project, there's always little things that you're like, oh, I should point this out to the world because I'm
Yeah.
not happy with it, but I'm just
Yeah.
going to not do that this time.
Yeah, it's
Um,
pretty hard. 'Cause, like, you spend all the time working on it, then you finish it, and you're like, oh, I forgot this. Oh no, I forgot that. But as I say, like, it's your own design, so nobody knows. So just keep to
yeah,
yourself. Maybe tell me later all the little mistakes.
yeah, it'll be fine. But
Yeah,
But yeah,
man.
so the challenge was design a dagger ahead of time and
Yep.
push yourself as hard as you can
Yep.
design-wise to see what you can accomplish. But you have to do sole authorship, which means you do every part of the dagger build yourself using whatever tools and equipment that you're comfortable using and or have access to and all that stuff. But it's within a 48-hour period, so it's not like
Yep.
48 billable hours. It's
Yep.
48 hours start to finish. So
Oh, okay, so you can spread it out.
yeah, you can't spread it out because it starts Monday at noon and then ends Wednesday at noon.
Yep.
And the idea is that you make a social media post every 2 hours to
Yep.
update everybody with where you're at, unless you're sleeping. The first night I
Oh,
didn't
come
sleep,
on.
but the second night I did not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of ran out of stuff to do the first night because
Yeah.
I got this completely ground and then I heat treated it.
Yeah.
But at home, I don't have a torch to do any torch tempering, so I did that
Oh,
in
yeah.
the oven.
Yep.
So that was sitting in the oven for a few hours, and I couldn't do much else because all of the components on this thing fit so tightly together that without the blade, I couldn't do a whole lot of other work on this stuff. But
So,
yeah,
so
to give you an idea of
someone's
what this is made out of, the crossguard here is wrought iron.
nice. It look
What,
like space sword. Oh, that's
yeah,
cool,
it's
man.
cool. Hey.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
man.
looks like wood grain.
I know it's really
But just a
cool.
bunch of slag inclusions.
Yeah.
That was sitting in ferric chloride for about 3 hours to get that look. And then
Nice.
the scales are traditionally ivory on these things.
Yeah.
But I
Obviously,
didn't
we
want to
can't get
kill a
ivory.
bunch of
Yeah.
elephants or anything. So
Yeah.
this is a
No.
product that's called false ivory.
Yep.
And it's just a plastic product that I tea stained to make it have some grain to it.
Yeah, man. It's really cool.
I've also got the dagger I did last year for the 48-hour dagger build as
Yeah.
well. It's this
That
guy
one's
here.
cool.
Yeah, so it's got bronze inlay all the way up the middle of the blade there.
That's right. That's all nice and classy. So
And
anyway,
in
so
keeping with the 48-hour build, I've got like a big hammer ding there. Like, well,
yeah.
that's in there forever. I'm not changing it. It's done.
Yep,
But,
that's how it is. Well, talking about swords and dagger, what would be your most favorite that you made? Obviously, like we'll take account film and let's do film and personal. Let's do one each.
okay. I really, really liked the Emperor's gift sword that we made for Mulan.
Yeah.
That one was probably one of the coolest ones I've worked on.
Yeah.
A lot of those components were 3D printed brass, though.
Yeah.
Straight printed into metal. Obviously, the blade was tempered spring steel.
Yeah.
And scabbard fittings and stuff. But that one got like hardly any screen time. Like Mulan sword was quite cool.
Yeah,
And
the massive one you
double
made.
scale of that.
Yeah, that was hilarious. It was like huge.
So I made a double scale Mulan sword. So instead of being this wide, it's this wide and twice as long. And the idea behind that was a visual effect shot, so that they could get a reflection of the actor's face in the sword itself, as the cartoon movie poster is. So I made a double scale one of those, which was quite challenging.
So how long did it take to polish that one?
I think I was working on that sword for 2 weeks, and most of that was hand sanding. Because then the surface would be slightly undulating.
Yep.
See the face undulating. So I wanted a perfectly flat, smooth surface that was shiny enough. And it was absolutely bonkers. Like I think I went up to 8,000 grit sandpaper on that. Like computer paper would scratch that surface. Like it was crazy. But I've noticed I think 3 different shots within the film that they used that when she was looking at her reflection or moving this giant sword around. Well, her sword's actually not very big. But yeah, when they have a close up, it's most likely this giant sword. And what's funny is at the very end of the film, when she's presented with the gift of the Emperor, the
Yeah,
Emperor's
yeah.
gift sword, like the box gets more screen time than the whole sword.
No, man.
And the box is cool, but it's not a sword, you know?
Yeah.
And so when
Yeah.
she pulls the sword out and looks down at it, if you
Yeah.
notice, the Emperor's gift sword's actually got it's double-edged sword, so it's got a blade on either
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Whereas Mulan's father's sword only has a single edge.
It's good.
And when she draws
Yep,
the Emperor's
that's
gift
right.
sword and looks down on the reflection, it's suddenly got one edge. They reused that design sword for that shot.
Yeah. It's like, yep, I saw that. It's like, that's how it is, but nobody knows except for you. Now everybody knows.
I know.
You just ruined it. You just ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, if
It's
you
like,
want
thanks,
your
Chris.
illusion to be ruined, just watch a movie with me and Senate.
Oh, I don't do it too often. I try not to, but I do. It's fun.
Really?
It's like, I ruined it for you. So that's for fun. What about your personal one? What's the coolest one you made for yourself?
I don't really make a lot of swords for myself. I've got drawings of swords I want to make for myself.
The one you made last year was
several...
quite cool. That blue one, that was quite a nice one. The one with the blue handle.
The one I shared the other. I think I made that one about 3 years ago. Peter made the blade of that one, and I just finished the commission on it. It was good fun. I mean, I've been working on this sword for over a year now. This is for a friend of mine in the States. It's an executioner sword. I only really work on it when I'm inspired to. I'm going to be doing a whole lot of acid etching up the blade, but to give you an idea of scale, that's how long
it's quite
the
long.
blade is. So it's a great sword, executioner sword thing, and I'll be doing a bunch of acid etching designs up in this thing and stuff. But I mean, that one's quite fun, and I've got a couple of personal projects that I take on, but only work on very seldomly, and take a lot of time because I want to learn new things about them. Like,
man.
Whenever I'm making stuff for a film, it's always making this crazy design, right? Well, I wanted to make my own designs, and that's where I came up with this twist pattern, and then the end of the spindles there. It's just kind of exploring designs that I want to make. So whenever I take on a commission, it's like, tell me what kind of sword you want, and I'll design it, because then it'll be a sword from me, not just a random thing. Cause it's fun
it's more fun that way.
The historical stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, I find the same thing. That's probably why I don't do commission, because people ask you for a certain costume or certain props, which is cool for them, but for me, I have no interest in that costume or prop, so you kind of lose the love of making it really quickly. If you're making something that you're into, then you're going to keep on going, keep exploring. And the same thing will work as well. The more I make for work, the more I learn. And you come home and you want to put all the process that you learn on that costume or that sword, and you don't want to put onto your costume. Is crazy. It's hard to stop, learning and stop, doing stuff.
And like for me, it's all about just expanding the skill set that my job requires, right?
Yeah.
Because Peter and I work on largely hero weapons, like there's no chance to screw it up.
Oh no.
We've got to do the best work possible every time. And so for my personal project, it's kind of an art therapy to be able to. I'll just try something like trying that bronze inlay thing. That's something I came up with because I thought it might work. And I was approached by a local filmmaker, kind of the end of, middle of last year, and we ended up shooting a short film that he's still in the process of getting funding to edit in January. And I was just like, I'll make a sword. So like, here's the design that I did of this crazy sword. It was more or less designing to my skill sets. Was this black iron cross sword. That was just a pencil sketch and then a quick Photoshop on top of it to get an idea for a sword. And like when I uploaded it, people thought I just took a picture of the sword, but that's the sword there.
Yeah, man, it looked good.
And that one was quite fun. I even pulled an April Fool's joke on people with this sword.
Didn't you tell one that's broken or something?
Yeah, so that was this thing.
Yeah.
So I took a picture of me cutting a sword in half with an angle
Yeah.
grinder,
Yeah.
which is what that one is. Well, all the hardware on this sword
Yeah.
fits onto this tang. So I just
Yeah.
put the hardware on this one onto this one. But the
Yeah.
idea was that they needed the sword to be stabbed into the ground to get their visual effects shots and like get stabbed in and
Yeah.
just be like it's super deep in the ground. But the ground
Yeah.
on the location we were shooting at is basically
So-
solid rock. So
yeah,
I knew we were
yeah.
gonna have to do something. And so I just made a tiny version of the sword. I didn't even heat treat this. I just ground it up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
did the same thing. So it just matches there.
Yeah.
But this has a practice Tai Chi sword on a magnet to the back.
That's
of it.
right. Remember you showed me that. That looked
Yeah,
cool. It's like,
so-
oh, that's awesome.
Like the idea is that it's just a collapsible sword.
Yeah.
Now you saw how more difficult that would be.
Yeah.
I would never. Well, I'm not a fight director, but I
Yeah.
know no fight director that likes collapsible blades because if it doesn't collapse, it's just
Yeah.
a blade.
Yeah.
For this one, it's just because it stabs into the ground.
Yeah.
That does two things. That means when
Yeah.
they do the CG extension of the sword,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
goes in a straight line, and
Yeah.
the actor isn't wobbling the sword like this as
Yeah.
it goes down.
Yeah.
So that's CG reference, but that's only ever
Yeah.
stabbing the ground with the full weight of the
Oh yeah,
actor
man.
behind it. So,
Imagine someone going a full thrust at someone's chest, and then the mechanism broken down. That would not be a nice
never
shot to
rely
be involved.
on your props.
Yeah.
It's just
Someone asked you, do you also make sword holders? I guess that's the Scabbards. I'm guessing.
typically, if we're doing a film, our scabbards are made of carbon fiber or just CC60.
Yeah.
So that goes for a whole different department and process.
Yeah.
I've been learning a lot about historical scabbards based on a book I bought recently. And like whenever I have to make a scabbard, like I just throw one together because typically my blades aren't sharp.
Yep.
I've worked around actors enough to know that you can't make something actor proof, but you can try to make something actor resistant.
Yep.
So generally, all of my stuff is blunted. It's got a secondary bevel, as you can see here.
Yeah.
But it's not going to cut anybody unless
Yeah.
there's some serious force put behind it.
Yep.
I have made a few sharp blades, but if I make a sharp blade, I also make a scabbard, right?
Yeah.
And the difference between a sheath and a scabbard is that a scabbard is wood cord or hard.
Yeah.
Whereas a sheath is usually just a piece of leather.
Yeah.
And the reason you don't want just a piece of leather on a long blade is when
Yeah.
you go to put it in, it's just going to cut its way through the side.
Yeah.
When I was doing Renaissance fairs and stuff, we weren't allowed to have wooden scabbards on the field.
Yeah.
Or hard scabbards, fiberglass, whatever.
Because health and safety, obviously. Yeah.
It's health and safety. If you fall on this, it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also you break it, and there goes your expensive scabbard.
Yeah.
So for film work or Renaissance fairs or stuff, you'll see a lot of really floppy scabbards that are just leather.
Yeah.
But because you're not putting a sharpened blade in it, it's probably not going to cut through the side. So that means it's nice and safe to fall on or any of that stuff. Like this blade here is a sharp, so I had to make this. It's just a plywood, four different pieces glued together and then shaped on the sander.
Yep.
But
Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, you'll be cutting stuff constantly with it, and it'll just be a pain in the butt.
Yeah, and sometimes when you make stuff, it's like super sharp. Like this one, I can actually shave with, but that's just a piece of PVC pipe that I flattened because I needed a scabbard that day. But like
that's shiny.
Finished blade.
Yeah, man. Yep, you can shape yourself and make sure you can miss the spot as well.
That'll take off some hair.
Yep, still sharp. Anyway, let's talk about the journey. Obviously, obviously we both work at Weather Workshop, and your way into Weather is quite unique.
It's been quite an adventure. So, what was it? Back in 2013, I went to a convention and I met Richard Taylor. For those of you who don't know, I'm originally from the States. But I went up to Calgary, Alberta for, I think it was Calgary Expo, because that was the most local con that Weta was going to be at that year. And so I went up there and met some of the crew and offered to help take down the booth and all this stuff, and made some friends, which was good. And then the following year, I went up and did the same thing again with my partner, and that just kind of evolved into working for the convention circuit, because I used to do a whole lot of cosplay back in the day.
Yep.
Like all the way back in 2005, I think was the first year I was doing stuff. And like my main focus was making costumes out of the materials they're actually supposed to represent, i.e. steel, or armor and stuff, if it's a older style thing. And so I made a full Doctor Doom costume.
That one's pretty cool.
Giant helmet. And I was just pushing my skill sets as hard as I could. And yeah, so that was my main costume. I brought that up, and a removable face shield with a magnet on top and everything. I don't have it here. It lives at my desk at work, which I don't have access to. But yeah, so I was doing a lot of that, and like I even have one of my other pieces of armor here from like back then was like when Captain America and the Winter Soldier was coming out.
Yeah.
I made a stainless steel Winter Soldier arm.
Yeah, man, that's cool. Yeah.
Making stuff out of metal has kind of always been my my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
There's a little pin there that holds that in place.
Yeah, man, different. It's more durable, and I guess, and it's real. It's not like it's not foam.
It's real, and so when people crash into you at the convention because they're being jerks about personal space, there's punishment for that.
Yeah, they're gonna hurt themselves more than they hurt you. That's for sure.
Yep. So yeah, that was kind of my introduction, and built a really, really robust portfolio that was mostly just images of things in progress and how far I'd gotten, and then the finished thing. And so eventually that led to me working for Weta, doing different shows, not just conventions, but we did a show in Seoul and Busan, South Korea, and Mexico City as well. New York City did a few things. But by this point, I was like, okay, I've met so many people from the company because he's flying up from New Zealand. It was just easier to fly me and my tools around North America and stuff. So I went, I was like, hey, at some point, I should probably go to New Zealand.
Yeah, you should really.
So at in 2014, flew straight from Mexico City to Wellington. I was doing a show premiere for the Battle of Five Armies, the last Hobbit movie, setting up a thing for Warner Brothers in Mexico City, and then came straight to Wellington. And so I got Weta to send me here, and after my partner Cassie and I had been here for a while on our working visa and went to work in the workshop, we kind of decided, like, you know, we've been to a lot of places around the world, and no place quite felt like home, quite like Wellington. And so we just pursued our options at getting work visas into permanent residency, which we've got now.
That took you guys quite a while. That was a journey.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's what I love about Wellington. Is for me, it's always home. Obviously, I've traveled as well. I'm from Thailand originally, but I do feel Wellington is home. You know, every time I come back here, it's definitely home because it's a city, but it's like a small town in a big city, kind of like, you know what I mean? It's crazy, you know. And it's so easy to get around as well. It's like you can drive for half an hour and you have the ocean, half an hour you have the mountains. And, you know, everything's so close together. It's awesome.
I absolutely love it. It's great. You can actually leave the city, or you can go into the city, and like that's hard to do elsewhere, especially for a place that does some world-class work.
Oh yeah, man.
Like we're so connected, yet we're the most remote little workshop
ever. I mean, like, it's all here in Miramar. Pretty much most of the, obviously, apart from Avalon, but otherwise before that, it was all kind of based in one small area, you know, concentrated area.
And of course, it's expanded way more in Auckland because they have space. So a lot of cool stuff happens up there too. Yeah, man. I mean, it's like we got lucky, you know, with the whole lockdown thing that we could able to
still work over here. This is really, looks really cool. Hey guys, you guys got any more questions for Chris about sword making? Definitely make sure you pop them into the chat or push the little question mark thing kind of down there as well.
Yeah, and if you got any questions about, I guess, miniature special effects as well.
Oh, that's right. You were part of the awesome Blade Runner team as well. You want to give us a little chat about your role in that project?
Yeah, so I was part of the team that pulled off the miniatures for Blade Runner 2049, which was quite good. I think my headphones are dying. Hold on. Just turn those. Can you still hear me?
Yep. Oh, it's way louder. Yep, go for it.
Sorry. My headphones are ringing in my ear like, we're going to die. Yeah, so Blade Runner was awesome. I have a background in photography. Before I was professionally making props, I was actually a photojournalist. And so one of the things that I always did was do night photography, especially of cities. Coming from a small town, the cities were always just so lit up and remarkable. So when I came into miniatures, it was for Thunderbirds, and I joined the team with Stephen and Joaquin, kind of like what you did, Senate. But I didn't really have a background in painting miniatures or doing any of that stuff. I have a background in like how cameras actually read objects, and so that was really my biggest contribution to the team was understanding how to trick the camera into telling you what you want it to, and kind of R&Ding some tricks and things there. And then my background in engineering was to do like practical effects, exploding dams, and the like that. But
yeah, man, we got some crazy questions. And we got one here. Due to your abilities to create props, do you think you could make jewelry? Obviously, Cassie makes jewelry. Cassie is Chris's partner.
Yeah, I've made some jewelry. I made this thing.
Thor's hammer.
Yeah, Thor's hammer. That's Damascus steel, so that's pattern welded, different types of steel with a bit of bronze inlay. I have made a little bit of jewelry, but it's more something that Cassie does. But the level of quality of the swords that we have to produce on a daily basis is absolutely jewelry quality everywhere. Because of the price point that we're asking. But I love to learn more about fitting and jewelry and stuff. So that would just expand my skill sets.
Where do you recommend to start with making miniatures? That's the next question.
I recommend finding a photograph of a landscape. Like if your landscape miniatures is where I'm at. I'm not good at painting tiny little miniatures and things. I'm good at making the landscape that they sit in. So if you guys had seen that Dark Crystal video that Weta put out a month or so ago, Daniel Falconer and Mark Hughes and I made a miniature landscape to put the Dark Crystal figurine in. I can't do the sculpting. That's Steven's department. I will do the manufacturing of the landscape. So if you're wanting to do a landscape, what I recommend is finding reference photos. But find one in particular, even if you took it yourself, of something you want to recreate on a smaller scale. Now, when I say a smaller scale, if you go watch that Dark Crystal video, you're going to notice that that looks quite large. Right, it's a full sheet of plywood sized table, so 1200 by 2400 or 4 foot by 8 foot miniature. That I believe is the smallest miniature I've ever made.
I mean, like the one we made for when we made for Unleashed, that was quite big too.
Yeah, that one was good. That's a regular sized miniature. Like you have to walk through the set, and so things that I have to think about when early stages of miniature design is how is somebody going to walk across this set? Like, you don't want somebody to put their foot through something because you didn't make it well enough. All you're doing if you don't start out with like a nice solid platform is you're just making little pit traps and booby traps that you're literally dressing over for yourself to fall in later.
Oh, yeah, we had a couple of that on the diorama for Unleashed. There's a few soft spots, that's for sure. We're putting tape down. Do not walk here. Don't step here. Otherwise, you're going to go pretty much straight through.
Yeah, right. Guess who put a bunch of plywood under those areas later? It was me.
Yeah. Next question. Any plans for making these shields? Obviously, there's one shield right there. That was pretty fun, making out of EVA foam. What's the split in sword work between you and Peter? Oh. Also, the apprentice does all the sanding. We know that. But,
yeah, I do a lot of hand sanding. Like that giant blade I showed earlier. That's all been hand sanded. I mean, the splits usually, I guess, hours-wise, it's probably about 50-50. He does a lot of the fiddly work, and then I clean it up to get it to those final finishes. But it really depends. It's a time frame thing. Like for Eowyn's sword, for example, like we're both pretty even on who's doing what on the bronze fittings for the scabbards. I don't know if you've seen the scabbard set, but there's so many bronze pieces. I haven't even counted them all, but I think there's like maybe 50 per thing.
Obviously, like when you first start off, it'll be a lot more with Peter. But as you guys start to work together more, it's starting to even out because as you know, he starts to teach you more, trust you more. That's how it works, pretty much, you know. And I'm sure we'll get more and more.
We're a team, just like any other team.
Yep. Also, you guys are a team too, so you guys are like
we're a pretty small department.
Yeah, which is good. Where most teams can be a team of 10 or whatever. So someone said, guess you're from Colorado?
Yeah, I was born in Colorado back in the day, but I haven't lived there since I was, 11, 12? No, 12? But then I moved to Washington State, up outside of Seattle.
Obviously, we got one here. So what about the design process? I guess design process, it will come from the designers half the time.
Yeah. So usually we're just handed a picture, or in a lot of cases, we'll get stuff that's 3D modeled as well, and then they just give us a picture of that or a print. And depending on the process, we might only ever need to make aluminum blades for a show. But I certainly prefer spring steel, proper edged weapons. But that's, my background in trying to make stuff out of the stuff it's supposed to represent. But that being said, I mean, aluminum blades work fine on set. They also make way better noises. But you see like the background action where they're not allowed to touch their blades because they make noise when the actors are trying to have a dialogue.
I can't
hit you.
But for Mulan, we don't really care. We just smack the crap out of the swords. There's a question there. Do you ever try forging with clay as a way to practice? You understand that one? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, so there's an old saying that steel is clay that is wet by fire, and that's absolutely true. So, for example, when I was doing the crossguard on this blade, I only had a cube of wrought iron that was about this big, and I didn't know if I had enough to make what I needed to make out of that. So what I did was grabbed a piece of clay and then went to the hammer and anvil and drew it out like I would a piece of steel to see if I actually had enough metal there.
Oh, no. That makes sense.
The math is the same. It's absolutely a good trick, and it's really nice for. I don't know if I have enough metal, or I don't know how much metal I'll need, so I'll just make a thing and see if I can draw it out quickly. It's also good for like practicing your next step. Like you've got a crossguard that's forged out, and you just need to move something, but you're not sure if you do it this way, if it's going to screw up the whole process. So if you just make what you have already out of clay really quick, just a rough mock-up, and then hammer it around and see where you need to go. Awesome. That being said, most of the materials that we make stuff out of, we don't need to forge. I like forging because it's fun, but it's not necessarily economic. A lot of what we do is called stock removal. So like this blade is completely ground out of a thick piece of steel to a nice thin point.
That saves a lot of normalizing cycles, and it also ensures accuracy. And what we have to do more often than not is make more than one of something, and it has to be identical. And so grinding or using a machine to cut those out, whether it's like a water cutter for the profiles, that way you end up with exactly the same piece over and over. But materials like, say, wrought iron here, you can see that grain structure. If I just ground that out, that grain structure wouldn't be compressed towards the edges and follow this nice curve. So it's forging has to be done on something like wrought iron or pattern welded steel or Damascus, because there's no other way to fake that. But I'd say the majority of what I do, if I forge something, it's only for the aesthetic reasons. Like that sword, super easy crossguard to make by forging, because you just hit it until it's skinny and then it's done. And you just throw that in the forge, make it all scaly, and it's just a really quick texture to make by doing it right. But when you have to do that to something that's 3D printed that will then be made out of foam or plastic or something, it takes a lot more work to actually just make something look rough hammered.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, it's time and budget too. You know, every time we get the film, there's always a certain amount of time that we have. And if you were to, like back in the day, it's Lord of the Rings. They took 7 years to make those 3 movies, so they had the time to, make most of the sword for real. But these days now, we might get the most 3-4 months to make, maybe 6 months to make a movie, stuff for the movies. So it's a lot less time.
Like in the blade making community, it's always nice to use the best steel. You want the exotic steels with the hardest edges and stuff. It's like those aren't variables and parameters that work for the products that I normally make. And the reason for that is because the products that we deliver are for filmmakers. We are making tools for people to make films with. And that means that if it has to be sharp, it's for a reason. It's for cutting something on screen. But most of the time, you don't want something sharp because everyone's going to be around it. It's like having a loaded gun. You don't want that around people because people are going to do something dumb.
Unfortunately, that's happened.
And so the mindset that I take is, like, we are tool makers, and the craft that we make tools for is film work. And so all we're doing is supplying the filmmakers and the storytellers with stuff they want to tell a story with. And inevitably you'll come up with the key things that a prop or a piece of armor or a costume or even a miniature set has to accomplish. And so for miniatures, for example, you have to know what shot you're going for, so you figure out how you need to engineer your camera trickery. And whether you need to make multiple sets at different scales because your camera is going to be changing, or if it needs to fly through something, motion control or whatever. And so those are the parameters that are outside of the look. So we give the designers the job of making something that works within the world of the filmmaker, and then we're handed the job of making sure that they're able to use that within their world to tell their story. And that just boils down to swords, to costumes, to everything.
I mean, like, as I said, like, we are part of a process, and obviously, you see it with filmmaking. If the camera don't see it, then you don't spend that much time on it, because, as I said, the deadline is so tight. We have to make sure that the beauty shot on that is beautiful. But saying that though, background stuff now had to be as good as foreground, especially with armor, with the whole 8K cameras coming up.
Because you don't get away with anything. Like that was a good story. When Joaquin and Steven and the rest of the team were working on Blade Runner 2049, they had a screening of the original Blade Runner at the embassy. And I remember we all went and watched it. And that was, for a lot of us, that was the first time we actually got to see Blade Runner in cinema. Being that it's an old film, and it was just absolutely incredible. It's like I saw more stuff in that than I'd ever seen watching Blade Runner in any other format. But I remember we came walking out, and Joaquin's kind of wide-eyed going, "Whoa, they're going to see everything. We're not going to get away with anything." For those of you that are like super Blade Runner fans, you'll know that the Millennium Falcon's actually used in the original Blade Runner as a building. It's just kind of turned upright and then covered in nernies.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
it was like, wow, they weren't even trying to hide that.
Yeah. I mean, like,
yeah.
the funniest one I saw was when I saw Star Wars again, when they had the symphony orchestra playing, and first time ever I saw those duct tape on the Stormtrooper's costume.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so fun. Like, oh my god, you see everything. So
like,
it's crazy.
We'll be working with magnifiers on, just hand sanding some little corner of something, and people will look at me funny, being like, why bother with that area? It's like, I'm looking at it the way it will look when it's bigger than my house on the side of a building. I'm the first person to see these.
Yeah, then why you saying that though? Sometimes we go to the extreme. It's not even seen.
No,
they happen as well.
But that's the quality that we expect.
Yeah. Also, like the biggest one was the most funniest one is Scourge of Thor Ragnarok. He's got like he's got about 1,000 of rivets in his armor, and I'm there with some tweezers with not tweezer with the pliers and a little hammer, digging it one at a time. I was like, oh my god, it was so funny. That was my job for like 2 hours. Sit there with the pliers, with the rivet, digging it with a hammer. Oh, it was so funny.
One of the jobs that you'll invariably get at Weta at some point, depending on like if we've got a large army to fit out, is there will be 2 or 3 people sitting around some rocks and some anvils, or just random pieces of metal and some hammers, aging buckles. You just have to make the buckles look like they're not brand new, and you've got to do 3,000 of them.
I mean, like other day for Mulan, for all the soldiers' armor, obviously they're all like metal plated. So for the first prototype, which will get molded later on, I had to sit there with the plasma cut plates, drill all the holes out, and then just smack it on a piece of rock. It was like that was so noisy that day, man. It was like. I had headphones on. I was still going piercing through the headphones. It's like ping, ping, ping.
Yeah, so I've got Class 5 hearing protection now, like earphones, earplugs.
Oh, you need them. Otherwise, and we're like, here's the questions. No, we don't receive any royalty for any movie stuff. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's all the property of the IP holder. Once we sell them, or once we don't sell them. Once we make them and pass it on to those guys. Once they're gone, they're gone. It's like the babies left the house and it's doing its own thing. Yep.
They just order products from us and we just fulfill the order. We don't get royalties.
Once it's gone, it's gone. Then again,
and so when you see these things come up at auction, you're like, oh, that's worth $30,000, is it?
Yeah. Well, we had that on my worst one when we were making that Red Ranger for Comic-Con. As I'm working on it, I think someone walked past. You realize that's like 50 grand you're working on there, right? It's like, oh, great. Don't screw it up.
Then you say like some auctions. Peter was telling me when they did it was Prop Shop did the auction for Lion Witch and the Wardrobe weapons and things.
Yeah.
Like they were selling swords for like $1,000 or whatever.
Oh man,
that's less than it costs to make it.
Yeah, man.
Oh no. Peter was like, I should totally buy one because then I can have a Peter Lion sword. I'm like, oh.
I mean, how long ago was that though? It must be like a few years ago now.
Yeah, it's well before our time. But
yeah.
It's like I want one of those. Jeez, that'd be cool.
I mean, like I gotta say, I mean, like I think like Narnia is one of our peak design and manufacture when it comes to armor and swords. I love the design they do on that movie. It's so beautiful. I think for me, the pinnacle where is most beautiful. I think Narnia was a good match. We're still handmade. It hasn't gone to computer just yet. But for me, I love the aesthetic of the first Narnia movie. It's pretty cool.
It's gorgeous,
What tools can you live without, Chris?
What's that?
What tool that you can't live without?
Whatever. What tool can I not live without?
Pick one.
I want to say something cliche, but I also want to say something health and safety related.
Go for it. Okay, we'll give you two. We'll give you two.
We'll give you two. All right.
All
So, health and safety, we'll start there.
Yeah.
I want everybody to imagine that you are able to sell your eyesight. Like for a price. How much would you pay or how much would you be paid to go blind? $1 million? No, it's not anymore. I was like, okay, 2 million, 3, like, are you willing to be paid enough to go blind?
Yeah.
And mostly everyone thinks about that for any length of time. They kind of decide that your eyesight is actually priceless. Yeah. It's without a price.
Yeah.
And so the most important tool is your freaking eye protection.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to gamble a absurd amount of money to go blind, why would you not just put these on when you're about to do something with a power tool?
Yeah. Obviously, in your case, it's probably the most, because you do a lot of grinding and stuff, you know.
Yeah, so you see my safety glasses have a little foam thing around them that helps seal something from my giant nose, because I've got really deep eyes and a great big nose. Makes scuba diving interesting. But for me, I cannot work without my eyes. And this, you see how scratched these are. They're terrible. I've got better photos. But that's the most important tool. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. Even if you're spraying expanding foam. Can you imagine getting that in your eye? It'd pretty much be over.
Expanding foam is terrible. Not just your eyes, get it onto your skin, onto your hair, onto your arm. Oh,
your hair?
It doesn't go away for like at least 2 weeks. Remember, I had a whole big piece of my arm when we were doing like Gallipoli, and it looked like I had eczema or some kind of skin disease for like 2 weeks. It just terrible.
I don't know the long-term health and safety implications of it, but whenever I got expanding foam on me, I would always just get acetone quickly, because when it's still wet, when it hasn't actually fully cured in oxygen, you can actually dissolve it. But expanding foam in the eye, thanks. And tying up my hair. I did a video recently of me showing off just putting my hair up, because I don't want to get yanked into a linisher that's trying to kill me via my giant hairdo. Just not interested in that. And I guess the other tool that I really like is a nice proper linisher for doing the kind of grinding that I do, obviously. But I mean, that being said, I probably use my Dremel more than anything else, because I have to finish everything with that. I've got lots of different hand sanding tools. I mean, there's the thing I say once in a while, which is whoever dies with the most tools wins. I don't know if you can see, but I've got
you got a fair bit.
This room at home, and my workshop outside has another one, and basically is a toolbox, but I've got lots of hand tools, lots of tools I've made. I just like tools, so whatever the best tool is the one I don't have yet. Unfortunately,
with my room, I have to downside a lot, since we have another one on the way. So all I have now is just
real thing.
I just have this. That's what I've got now. It's not a whole room anymore. This is all I have. It's like a total downgrade. All right. Next question is: do props contain your signature of any form that you made? For movies, probably not, because you can't put your mark on it. I mean,
no, it's not part of the design. Don't make it.
Yep. But when it's your own, do what you want, obviously.
Yep.
Next one is there any movie adaptation you would love to work on? You can see that one? From Hamburg.
Yeah, so any movie adaptation that I want to work on. That's an interesting one, because like we've worked on so much cool stuff, and I'd say the majority of my career is making stuff for prequels, sequels, universe extensions, reboots, whatever. They're IPs that already exist, because those are what are profitable, right? And so that seems to be where the industry's at now, is you get very, very few brand new IPs. And I guess it's just the grass is always greener situation of, I would like to work on something that is brand new, that just shows itself for itself. because we've worked on some incredible stuff, and like going back into the old cosplay stuff, it's really cool to be able to explore a designer's design into reality. Like that, it's hard to explain how satisfying that is. Is to take someone that's just an incredible artist in their field and apply that to like the universe. You bring it from an idea to a practical thing, you know, one of these or whatever. And I've only really started exploring the design applications of stuff that I want to build. You know, I'm just going into looking at historical examples and my interpretation thereof. And when you go into IPs of stuff that's already been, or is, you know, a cartoon that's dear to your heart, you almost feel like you might not do it justice because it already is good.
It's super hard. I mean, like for me, it was Power Rangers. That's my first ever job in costume, and the first costume I made was the Red Ranger, who was my favorite Ranger when I was a little kid. Trust me, the weight on the shoulder was like, all right, if I screw this up, I'm not disappointing anyone else. I'm going to disappoint myself as well.
Oh, so, we felt the same way on Blade Runner. It was like when we were bidding on it, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool? You know, we got a model shop set up. We're going to make miniatures for this thing that basically set the bar for what miniatures could be. And in a storytelling element to expand a universe beyond what was possible at the day. And when we got the thing, we're like, we're going to be those young fools. Oh no!
It's like no pressure. You know, obviously you know that you can't please everybody. You know, that's part of the industry. But again, you don't want to disappoint yourself or your friends. That's probably the most biggest thing. That was hard. I mean, like then we worked on Thunderbirds together. That's like, oh, it's a whole bunch of fans. You don't want to disappoint as well. It's like, holy smoke! It's definitely the pressure's there, but again, it's quite cool as well. When you know, we all about pressure. We love pressure. We love that, you know. That little, oh my god.
And like just knowing that there's a fan base out there to please help. Whereas when you're working on something that no one might appreciate, then you're kind of like, well, how far could this go? Right? Now, I'll be completely honest. Like, for me, Thunderbirds didn't really hold anything because I'm American and it wasn't really part of our childhood. And so when I was introduced into Thunderbirds, it was because I was working on the job. And so I had to learn on the fly and then just watch old Thunderbirds episodes and be like, oh, this is what we're making. Oh, we could make this really cool. Like, it's unique enough because it embraces scratch building that it embraces that it's a miniature world. Like, it's okay that the fluid dynamics don't quite match up, that water never scales right. That's the campiness, that's the look. But then when we transferred into Blade Runner, it was like, oh, we're not just playing around anymore.
It's serious, I had that feeling on Gallipoli. Obviously, I wasn't born here. I was born in Thailand. So my role at Massa is we make all the terrain, all the rock work for the show. So I was having a great time. You know, I was having a blast and chipping away at polystyrene with a hammer to give a nice hammer look. Nice stony look. But it wasn't until I saw the exhibition at Te Papa live, I realized, sure, I was having fun working on this, but now I've seen it in the environment, it's so much more deeper. It's so, you know, it was so sad, you know.
That's definitely one of the coolest things I've ever worked on too. My friend Robbie and I made the Maxim Machine Gun. It's in one of the scenes, and most of that's actually metal too. Like it was interesting looking at the old schematics of World War I firearms and building them at 2.4 size. So I remember I had to make a detail that was holding onto the side of the top of the tripod that holds on the gun. And I was looking at all the pieces, and I was like, okay, cut those out, weld that bit together, and then grind that, and then it'll be ready for primer and can go to paint shop. But then I had to figure out how to attach it to the other bit before it goes to paint. And then I was like, oh, well, there's just 2 screws here. Like, that's how it's held on in reality. And so I just made 2 screws. Now,
Yeah.
scaling them up, they were M20. I just happened to find an M20 cut. So I actually cut an M20 hull, but then I had to make a screw that size too. So I had to weld up this big, giant, like massive metal, grind that into a domed head, and then cut a flathead screw in it because it's a flathead screw. That's how everything was held together back then. But the only screwdriver we had big enough was just a crowbar, screwing this together. We felt like we were miniature people. But when you step back and look at what you've created and the story that has been told that you were able to participate in, it was striking how just moving that experience is. And it's really fortunate that it's still here in Wellington and we can all go see it.
It's still going strong. It's been like 6 years now. It's supposed to be there for 3 or something. And there's still lines as well during the weekends of people going in there. I say like it was crazy. As I said, I was born in Thailand. I know of World War One of Gallipoli, but I didn't fully immerse myself in it until I saw it, in the whole entirety, and it was crazy. And once you see the figures in the environment, then you have the music, you have the lighting, you have the voiceover of the letters being read, and I see why it's so emotional, so moving, and why it's still there. It's probably still one of the best thing that we did at Weta, that's for sure. Yeah,
I agree completely.
Yeah,
it was an awesome experience, and very humbling. I mean, coming from America, we weren't involved in the Gallipoli landings. And so I didn't know a whole lot about it because World War II is taught way more as a important cultural event as opposed to World War I. And then you learn how incredibly personal it was for every single family in New Zealand. Because most of the population of an entire generation left the island.
Oh, man, like I heard stories of 16-year-old boys going to the war, forging their letters saying they're 18, just to go because all their friends are going. Also, I went to all boys college in Wellington as well, and we hear a story about all the senior boys have to go to war. That's just how it is, all right? The whole 2 senior years just went to war. It's pretty crazy, You look back then and how war is now these days is you can't compare the two. There's no comparison.
No. What they did is why we can do what we do.
Oh, big time, man.
Like the world changed. That was a turning point. And like we're living through the largest peacetime that we know of, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, they're obviously like we going from that, then we go to Unleash. There's wholly different mood altogether.
It's a very different mood. Yes.
But I still couldn't believe that we got to do it because it's like going back to old school. Going back to how Weta used to be back in the days, of making movies for. Everything's all done off the cuff, which is fun and scary at the same time. You just don't know what's going to happen next. Okay, what am I doing tomorrow to this? We don't know. We'll find out tomorrow.
It's going to make it look good. Yeah,
it's going to look good.
Yeah, that one's definitely different. But I mean, we follow the same kind of vein with TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, or an exhibit that we installed in Zhuhai in China, which I was a little bit of a part of. I didn't work on a whole lot of the infrastructure or any of that, but I was there to help install a little bit of it. And that was incredible. And then there was the Dubai exhibit as well.
That's pretty cool.
All of these things nobody's seen because 2020 had an interesting...
We probably can't say too much. We get in trouble there. Let's keep that. As I say, like, the Unleashed stuff, and obviously we both went. You've seen it, eh? You've seen it since open.
Yeah,
it was like it's nothing like it here in New Zealand. For
me, it's good fun. I like all the questions of so what movie's that for? It's like no, just take a picture of it. It's not for anything. And now it's like maybe we should make those movies.
For me, it's like the only comparison I have is our time over at Disney World. That's the only comparison I have. It had the same kind of feel where the tour guide is also almost like actors. As you come in, you leaving the real world and you go into a different world. They take you through all the three movies or the three set, and they are constantly in character the whole way through, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's good.
For me, it'd be so tiring being those tour guys just acting all day long. I can't do it, but they do a great job.
Oh yeah, I just get burned out instantly. I can do like an event and hang out with people for a little while, but I'm just way too aggressively introverted.
I mean, like, so also you did quite a lot of stuff on Unleashed too. So also, we did the big diorama together. There was a lot of work. But then, like, I still remember like making that throwing out of Power Tire.
Yeah,
I was so worried, man. It's like it was like that's gonna be sit on, walk on at least 1,000 times a day. If it happened to
everybody's gonna
break,
be kicking it.
Yeah, like if the break is on me.
The castle for Unleashed was probably one of the most challenging miniatures that I worked on. That was headed by Mona Peters. Yeah. The challenge in that wasn't necessarily the look. It was very doable. It was very cool. Relatively easy landscape to dress, and all that. And the size was fine. We're normally used to making miniatures that big. I like to tell people I never had to be forklift certified before I started working with miniatures.
Yeah. I mean, like the hardest part I found with that is making all the rock fit again.
Yes. So the most challenging part of that entire miniature was trying to make it public safe, because when you make stuff for a film, it just needs to sit there long enough in front of the camera to trick the camera and do anything else that it needs to do. Support the weight of somebody that needs to walk across the set. It needs to be able to get wet and not fall apart. It needs to do this, that, or the other thing. But none of those variables that I've ever had to put up with in the past were everyone's dad trying to show their kid, oh, look, this won't break.
I mean, like we're going through printing all the greeneries, all the cracks, and we're like, okay, this is going to get ripped off. That's going to get taken away. We like go, oh my God, this is not going to last that long. But that's how. Oh, Eric's here. What's up, Eric? How are we going? I mean, like for me, it was really cool because when I first watched Lord of the Rings, and I remember seeing the minister sit at the Papa, and I was like, oh, cool. I want to be a waiter. I want to work on miniatures. Then I got here, it's gone. I was like, oh man, that sucks, And then when we got to work on this for Unleashed, I was like, yes. And then I tick off the list. I've done that. It was so cool. I mean, like it was crazy fun. I was to work with Sean Foote too. That was quite cool.
Sean was amazing.
Yeah, he's such a funny guy. Super quiet. Sense of humor is. You have to.
Yeah, he worked with us on Blade Runner as well, and Cassie worked with him up in Auckland on a few things. But he's the man.
We had a good team on that miniature. Everything worked well. We had Joe came and joined us, and a few other guys as well. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and Grace and Cassie and
Grace and Cassie as well. And a few more guys came. It was a really good project. Yeah, it's good fun. Yeah. All right. So it's an hour now. You guys got any more questions? Make sure you pop it in. Talk to ask Chris, or you can
go find my cat for someone.
Yeah, it's honestly find your cat. Cassie, bring the cat. Yeah, Chris can find the cat now. Yeah, he's asked twice to bring the cat in, so Chris is going to find the cat for you. Yeah, so it's been a great chat so far. Obviously, like as I said, Chris and I have worked together quite a few different projects now, and it's kind of nice to just sit back and talk about them. That's pretty cool. Oh, there he is. There's the cat.
Yep. So this is Bettina.
Yep. Look at the camera.
She is not a lap cat, so she will not stay here. But she was also napping.
Yeah. And
her name which is what you do to oxidize metal.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's all black. She just needs rubbed back a little bit.
Yeah.
She's not impressed.
Okay, Eric, man, catch you soon. Oh, look at the camera at least. Nope. She's done that. Let me go. I'm going back to sleep. Leave me alone. How could you pick me up?
Want to leave me? So she's almost 10 years old now.
Yeah.
And she is completely deaf, so it's really easy to sneak up on her. It's very sad.
She's like, damn you human. I was having a good dream. You just woke me up.
She's leaving.
She's gone. Goodbye. Thank you for joining us on the stream. All right. So what is your next personal project, Chris? Also, we can't talk about work project, so let's talk about personal stuff.
I've got a number of swords that I'm working on designing for some of my old stage combat troop back in Seattle. So I've got one that's got the head of a falcon as the pommel. It's a big single-edge hunting sword.
Yeah.
That one I'm quite excited for. I've got another one that's more fantasy design, and then I've got two different long swords that I've drawn up. But I was thinking about taking the afternoon and finishing off this little knife.
Nice.
That's got double fullers on it. That was me practicing, seeing how close I could, or how quickly I could do a 2 parallel fullers. When I was thinking about designs for this knife, I just kind of ground that one up quickly.
Yeah.
So I might do that. I don't know. At some stage in my life, I'm sure I'll finish this sword. But
I'm sure your friends is extremely patient. Yeah, it'll get to me eventually.
That's why when I take on a commission, it's like don't give me money until it's done, because it's probably going to be a year or more when I can get to it and when I feel like I want to work on it, because I don't want to burn myself out on personal projects. I've done that enough.
Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we are quiet, so you start a project, and then suddenly you just get crazy at work, and your personal project, you just have to go on the back burner for months and months and months.
Yeah, and you kind of, like with these ones, because they're such a part of my art now, I don't want to produce something that I could have done better if I had just waited till I was inspired to do something. Yeah. And since these haven't been fully fleshed out, like that black iron cross sword, that one I fully fleshed out as a design because I needed approval from the director. And it also had a time frame. I needed to design something I could do in the amount of time. Same thing with that 48-hour dagger build. Whereas some of these other things, I want to explore a new technique or something. And so I'll make a project that does that. So like this falcon head, I'm actually just sculpting in clay, and then I'll mold that and then cast it in bronze. And that'll be cool. It'll probably be way too heavy for the sword that I've designed. So I have to scale it down a little bit. But that's future me's problem. But screw that guy.
Oh, I mean, like it's hard because we all live on watching movies and watching games, and some of the weapons on there, as you see it, are not super accurate. And you're like, oh, there's no way someone can swing that, because it's like it looked cool, but it's not. Especially like as we were talking before, swords that have holes in them. And we're like, it's like that's like no, just gonna do it right there.
Yeah, they did, but like here's the way I look at it. This type of thing is reasonable. Yeah. If it helps you tell your story. Yeah. If you just have Joe Nobody or, super badass fighty lady, whatever. Yeah. And their swords aren't up for the task that they are, enlisting them for, then why are they using that tool? Like, if it's some aristocrat that's like, oh, I can afford a sword that does all this fancy stuff, and it's like, okay, that's the sword for that character. Like props and costumes tell as much about the character as the action does, right?
Oh yeah, man. It's how to dress. I mean, like look at Lord of the Rings. Now, for me, Thor is the biggest one. His costume and his sword. He's not a soldier. He's not the king, but the way he dresses, he's like, yeah, I'm the man. He got my sword.
He's like, and then look at Strider's sword that cuts through everybody all the time, and it's like, yes, that's a very reasonably comfortable sword.
Yeah. How about so while we're here, let's not talk about the worst sword, because we can go all day by that. Let's talk about the sword you like the most in the movie. You see, they look cool, they look beautiful, and they can be functional as well. Which one come to mind? Obviously, you want to say a lightsaber, but it doesn't really count.
Yeah, lightsaber's great. I mean, except for all the lightsaber fights. I mean, if I was fighting with a lightsaber, I'd just turn it off really quick when somebody goes to block it, and then turn it back on really quick.
Gone.
That's called cheating.
Yeah.
Way less cinematic. I actually really like the swords in Arn, the Knight Templar, I believe. I have actually since held one of those swords too. It's like, this is a great sword. Oh, it's from this movie. Okay, cool. A friend of mine working on that. Yeah, there's a lot of kind of historical dramas that use swords that are more for the reenactor market. Which drum up a lot of exciting stuff. But to be honest, I think you're right when you were talking about Lion Witch and the Wardrobe blades and armor, because it's just that the edge of fantasy to the point where you pick this up and I feel confident that I could defend myself with it, knowing a little bit about sword combat and stage combat. Whereas, like some other things, like Warcraft, it's like, why would you ever need this? It's this thick. That's not going to cut through anything. It's thicker than it should be wide. Like, so I'm always in that balance of, and I learned a lot of that from Peter, is you can just kind of look at the design of a sword and be like, the pommel's too small. Like, it's going to be uncomfortable to use that. It's not going to turn around quick enough to be great. That just comes from practice and using stuff. And so a lot of times I can look at a design and be like, okay, well, that'll be interesting. Like when I looked at this freaking thing, all of these, I looked at that handle and I was like, that is the dumbest handle ever. And then I'm holding it and like, it's not the dumbest handle ever. Like it's comfortable enough, but
your fingers.
I would use all day.
I mean, like it's the same with me with
utilitarian, right? That's comfortable.
It's the same with me with costumes. I look at design now, and I'll be like, "There's no way the actors can do this." You know, it's funny how you see stuff and you're like, "Oh no! What are you doing? Don't do that."
When I was doing stage combat, I had these giant pauldrons with what are called halt guards on them here. Which are really more for jousting, but I thought they were cool, and it's just a big, dramatic silhouette, right? And I had to learn how to fight around them because I could not deliver a two-handed blow overhead. Because if I put my arms together, those halt guards just pinch my skull. I could do one easily enough to move out of the way. And so that changed the way I was sword fighting into everything that's coming down from overhead will be a one-handed blow, and that means it'll turn around into something else. But I physically could not do this because of the restrictions of my armor, which changed how I fought. Now, I was able to do that because of the period of time that I was, making my own armor and learning how to use it. But if you go and throw an actor into that and then expect them to be able to do these stunts and things, it's like, they're just going to look goofy because all they're going to do is pinch themselves in the head and go, oh! Or learning to fall in armor like that. We had
the issue with on Mulan. Not with the stunt actors, just with the extras. Not sure. They're like, this arm's uncomfortable. Could they're trying to move in a different way where the armor's not designed to. Here's a question there. Do you or Peter ever recommend change to a sword or design to the designers?
Depends on the project. Sometimes. I mean, I just let my opinion be known regardless of whether I can be changed, because it's usually too late by then. But I have opinions that I share politely.
Chris is like just making his own sword. Here, take it or leave it. It's done.
Yeah, it's like, well, you could do that, or you could just use one of these. Like,
I mean, like, it's same with costume department. We are probably lucky that we have the design team just down the road, or just down the building. So if we see a piece of design that we think, look, this is not going to work, we can at least talk to the designer and we can nut it out together. Where some prop house, some workshop, their designers prefer about in different countries, so you have to wait for the timelines, call them up, do the change. We're lucky that we have the designers in the same building, so we just go and talk to them. Look, man, this look cool, but can we tweak it a little bit to make it more functional? So we're lucky that way.
Like, the way I look at it too is it's it's a collaborative effort, right? It is a teamwork job. We're trying to deliver the best product to get the look we want. So when I didn't work on any of World of Warcraft, but when they were working on World of Warcraft, it was trying to match World of Warcraft, right?
Yeah.
And one of those things is that everyone's shoulders go on for days, like the animated Batman series. It's just like, why is your shoulder a Buick? I don't know. And one of the ways to scale that is obviously to pad out the shoulders, but then to make the helmet ridiculously tiny so that your head gets no bigger. They had the same thing when they made the Iron Man costume, was trying to keep the head the same size, but extend the sides of the shoulders so that you get a balance. Whereas you look at the people doing like Buhurt or HMB or historical medieval battles, where they're wearing ridiculously big helmets because they're getting smashed in the face with two-handed axes and stuff. They don't look like they have a neck, because a neck is a weak point.
Yeah, man.
You don't want to be able to be pulled off the side. And so it's not a good look. Like, it's just uninteresting for our biological mapping of a human silhouette. You want to be able to emote with that human, so you need to be able to read their entire body movement. You need to be able to tell that they're giant and powerful, and they've got this triangular shaped torso, right? And so you need to be able to express that without the head just looking like a juggernaut helmet.
I like call mine a bobbing head. That's why all my costume, all my helmets are super tight, because you want the heroic look. You have to suffer for that look. You have to have the helmet squeezing your head. So especially that guy there, the Black Panther one. That one is tight. As in, like, tight.
When I made the Doctor Doom one that was all steel, it is touching here. It's that close. Like, if somebody punches it in the face, it's going to hurt a lot. But like, the helmet fits so close to my eyes that my eyelashes actually stick outside of the
eye holes.
The eye holes, which gives me incredibly good peripheral vision. So I can just, like, I'll be at San Diego Comic-Con standing next to a booth like I'm a statue and just staring little by looking at them quickly.
Other day for my dwarf too. You just stand still. I mean, like, other ones, not intentionally. They had the the Winter Cave birthday, and I wore my dwarf for that. I just happened to be standing outside the door, just standing still for a bit, because I was just resting.
I remember that.
These ladies walked past. I said hi to them. They were like, almost had a heart attack. Sorry, I didn't try to. It was just by accident. That's half the fun. All right, man. It's almost been almost an hour and a half. Jesus, it's been a good chat though.
Yeah.
Well, you came on a bit late, but it's all good there. It was good. It was good fun. Obviously, like, it was. Hopefully, we'll find out today if we're back in the workshop on Wednesday.
I think we're back on Wednesday. Doesn't really change anything else, but
I guess we'll see how we go. Otherwise, just keep working from home, I guess. I mean, it's quite nice. It's quite nice outside today, so we should go for a walk. If you guys don't know, Chris just lived just up there. That's how close we are.
Janet lives down there. Not far.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you enjoyed this conversation. And as I said, tune in tomorrow, 4 p.m. New Zealand time, and we'll catch Stephen Saunders. And there'll be a quite interesting conversation to have with Stephen, that's for sure. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chris. See you later.
Adios. Thanks for your questions.
See ya. All right. That was cool. Awesome, guys. Once again, thank you for joining us. That was a good conversation to have. Some pretty cool insight on how to make swords, how to do miniatures, and just talk about movies in general. Once again, thank you, and stay tuned for tomorrow. We've got Stephen Saunders here. Then we'll have a chat and we'll go from there. All right. Thanks, guys. Catch you later. Bye.